Welcome back, Savages. Tonight we're getting back to our roots and talking Pennhurst Asylum. Alright guys, so tonight we are talking Pennhurst Asylum. As you all know, it was mentioned
a while ago.
I don't even know when, that we were going to ParaCon 2025 in Spring City, Pennsylvania. And that was fun.
It was interesting. We'll just leave it at that.
I do recommend that if you want to hang out in the quiet little neighborhood, Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, Mainstay Inn, Chef's Kiss. It was fantastic. No kids are allowed on the property. Sorry. But it was super quiet. It was like a little mini New Orleans, so it was really nice.
It was a really cute little town. You walk everywhere.
Yeah. It's about 15 minutes outside of Spring City, so it's a good distance, but we still got to do everything that we wanted to do.
The complaint is there is no parking.
Yeah, no. It's very limited, like 7 spaces limited. But we got to see Pennhurst, and that was an incredible experience. A lot of the buildings have been torn down, which we're going to talk about why. But the main buildings are still standing. If you get the chance, I would definitely recommend checking them out.
Not necessarily at a ParaCon.
Yeah, no. Don't. I would just schedule a ghost tour, because the ParaCon, it was chaos, needless to say.
Not worth the prices you pay, especially for the VIPs and RIPs. And
yeah. I didn't get to meet Josh Gates.
I got to meet Nick.
We did get to meet Nick Groff.
But I didn't get to meet any of the other people that we wanted to see.
We got to meet Sean Whaley from Twisters. Loved him.
Yeah.
He was great. He was so nice. But yeah. Oh, and we got to meet Amy and...
Oh yeah, Amy and... Oh my God.
Adam.
Yes, Adam.
Yes. From Kindred Spirits. They are wonderful people. The way that they are portrayed on TV is the same way they are in real life.
Kaden,
they're amazing.
Go grab the 2 pictures.
We did got some autographs from them. I have a t-shirt with their autograph on it, so that was fantastic. But we're going to talk about Pennhurst and how that kind of got started. So we got autographs. Nick. We did get to meet them in person, so that's nice. They were wonderful people.
They're very super nice people.
They are. Yeah, they have their own bar, alcohol. They have a clothing line and alcohol because Amy does food.
Yes.
She has her own cookbook.
She had 2 or 3 there that she was selling. I don't know how many more she's got, but...
I don't know, but I know she does cookbooks.
Yeah.
Yeah. You bought a cookbook, you got an autograph, or you bought a t-shirt and you got an autograph. I got a t-shirt. We are going to display that at some point. Some of the language that is going to be used, I'm going to try to make it not as offensive as possible, but we are sticking to a lot of the history. So I do apologize in advance if some of the words that are used.
And you have to take into account when all this was written.
Yes.
Verbiage back then was a lot different.
Yes, it was. So yeah. I apologize up front. This is just, you all know.
History.
Right. So it was originally known as, and I have to read this because it's very long, the Eastern Pennsylvania State Institution for the Feeble-Minded and Epileptic. That's a lot of freaking words. It was a state-run institution for the mentally and physically disabled individuals of southeastern Pennsylvania, which... It's a very nice area now. I don't know what it was like back then, but it seems like it's a very upscale kind of neighborhood.
I would say upper middle class.
Yeah, because even some of the houses that are still standing from that time, they are very close together, but it is something that is like considered fancy back in the day. It opened in November 1908 and closed in December 1987. There's lots of reasons why. Thank God. It's in 1950, there was over 3,000 people housed in this area. There were not supposed to be that many. It was considered overcrowded because not only did they have the mentally disabled, but they also had orphans, immigrants, and convicts from the prison.
Yes.
How nice.
Yeah, so that's a...
Basically anybody that they didn't want out in society.
Because there was a quote, and I should have written down who said it, but there was a quote that basically stated that if you were mentally disabled, you were considered a criminal. Because you could become a criminal at any time, which I think is stupid, because we all know that's not true. But that's just how they thought back then, which is annoying. And again, stupid. There were 2 groups, educational and industrial departments, and then one for the custodial and asylum departments.
I will say we were in the industrial building.
Yeah.
There were a lot of not happy spirits in the industrial building.
So during ParaCon, depending on which passes you bought, you got to enter certain buildings. The ones that we entered were mostly industrial, and some of those buildings, I had a very hard time. I'm going to cry just talking about it. I had a very hard time being in there. The first, just walking through the doorway, for me, it was like I was walking through some place that I shouldn't be, and that it was almost like there was a barrier that was like, don't cross this line or bad things going to happen. And within the first 10 minutes, my emotions were all over the place, and I could not stop crying. I couldn't stop shaking. I had a hard time filming, taking pictures. I, at some times, was just stuck because I could not move. There was a lot of people that were also there doing the same thing. But for a lot of them, it was like a joke. Oh, ha. There was a lot of people pranking each other. And for the people who did take it seriously, they could tell that the atmosphere was not okay. Like, at all.
And a lot of the, I wouldn't say a lot, but some of the spirits that we did talk to, their main complaint, I guess you could say, was that it had become a joke to most people.
Yes, and I think we even got some of that, like, on recordings.
Yeah.
When we asked questions. It was a pretty big thing. And we were also in some of the asylum departments where they used to have the showers and the dining hall and some of the rooms, and that was also... You could tell bad things happened in that place.
You could just feel it seeping out of the walls.
It was awful. And for some place that we were excited to visit because of what we do, it's definitely an area that if you're going to go, you have to be prepared.
And you have to show respect.
Yes.
Because these are all tortured souls.
Yes. We understood that it was a convention, but we also respected, just like we do any other investigation, we went in open-minded. This is how things are going to be. This is what could be said type of situation. And it sucked. I was definitely drained by the end of the day, and we weren't even there that long the first day.
No. And what was it, the second day, Erin from Trapped Souls even had a rock thrown at her in one of the rooms we were in.
Yeah.
We caught it on video. We didn't catch the actual throwing of the rock, but you could hear it in the video.
Yeah. Yeah, I asked the question. I was like, did you just get a rock thrown at you? And she was like, yes. And then April got a recording was something like, I did that.
Yeah, it was something. I don't remember the exact words they use now, but it definitely confirmed that they had done it.
Yes. It was a very big emotional thing. So there are not as many buildings as there was originally. So from 1903 to 1908, there was a girls' dining room, kitchen and storeroom, cottages for girls, dining hall for boys, teachers' homes, boys' cottages. There was a school at one point, laundry, sewing, and a powerhouse. Most of those buildings are gone now because they were too run down to even reuse.
It just wasn't safe.
No. There are tunnels that run under the whole. It connects from one side to the other. We were supposed to get to explore those, but they had them blocked off. Not sure if it was because of the flooding that had happened over the weekend, or if it was just another one of those mishaps that happened while we were there.
Yeah. Mishaps. Yeah. We'll call it that.
There was a railroad station. Pennhurst did have its own railway at some point for moving supplies, and I think people, from the way that some of the articles were
Probably.
read, was that they moved people as well as merchandise things. I'm not going to question
were
that.
merchandise for a while.
I know. I don't like to think about that. In 1916 is when the women were officially segregated from the men, which I think is funny considering how long it had already been open. You would have thought that they would have been segregated a lot sooner.
You would have thought.
So my thought process on that was that somebody got knocked up, and then they were like,
"Oh crap!"
crap.
Of somebody's.
In 1968, there was a news report that was done in a 5-part series. This makes me think of the article where there was somebody that had checked into an asylum to get the news report, and then that's how they got everything. And I'm wondering if this is what they did.
Very well could
Because if you have a 5-part series like that, somebody
on the inside.
Yeah, somebody was on the inside.
Yeah.
I have a whole other page, but if you want to do some too.
Oh no, you go right ahead.
We took a lot of notes on this one because we were very excited about it.
Yeah.
In 1981, there was an article in Time magazine. This was after it had closed, basically stating that it was understaffed, dirty, and a violent place to be. In 1983, 9 employees were indicted on charges for abuse, basically. It was from slapping to full body assaults, and to the point where patients were also being forced to fight each other, basically. What did you call it?
I don't remember. Like we're talking to her.
No, you called it some kind of fight club.
Fight Club from the movie.
Yeah.
They had their own little fight club going on in there.
And that,
I can see it. I can totally see the guards or the people who work there. They got their people in their units, and they're going up against the other guards' people in their units, and they're
right. Okay, I'll give you this, but you have to do this.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And
You
that's
win Fight
just,
Club, you get extra privileges.
It's just gross.
Yeah, but I can totally see it happening because that's just how people are.
Yeah. It's
Even
just,
nowadays, I can see
yeah.
something like that happening.
Oh, I'm sure it does happen nowadays, and people just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Oh, in 1977, the U.S. District ruled that the conditions of Pennhurst were, they basically broke constitutional rights. The 14th and 8th Amendment were the biggest ones.
They had started, it goes from what I saw all the way back to 1973, people started bringing lawsuits because of conditions and the way their relatives were being treated. And
it started in 1973 and didn't end until 1980.
Yeah.
So that was almost a 10-year span that it took for people to be like, yo, something's wrong. This place needs to be shut down. But it had already been open for almost 80 years.
But the Declaration of Rights of Disabled People didn't take effect until mid-70s.
Because of this place, which is gross.
Yeah.
I guess we can get on to the ghosty parts now, unless you have anything else to add.
Yeah, because basically all that's left is in 1986 they officially closed it.
And after the closing, there were actually some patients that had been part of that actually sued and won their lawsuits against the asylum.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because The way they were treated was just horrible.
Yes, one of them would go home. Apparently they were, like, some of them were allowed to leave and go home and visit their families. But she went home, her name was Terry, and she was covered in bruises.
Wow.
Yeah.
If my kid came home covered in bruises from anywhere...
Yeah, but you also have to think that whoever she went home to is probably who sent her there in the first place.
That's true, yeah.
And because they sent them there for...
That's just bad parenting.
Stupid reasons.
Yeah, because they couldn't handle them, yeah. It's not like today's age where you have disabled or handicapped children or young adults, whatnot, who have round-the-clock nurses and things like that. That's unheard of back then.
And now we know more about these things, that
Yeah.
they don't necessarily need to be locked away. You just need to handle them differently.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. It's just...
It's gross.
It is. It's gross, and it's terrible the way that these people were treated, but I'm not giving them an excuse, but they didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Should they have done what they did? No.
No.
But the medical community as a whole didn't really put much effort into figuring out what all this stuff was. It was just, oh, there's something wrong with you.
I
You're
mean,
going away.
yeah, because most of these places, I think, were run by men because
Of course.
a lot of women
weren't allowed to do
Yeah,
it then.
women weren't allowed to do anything besides be like nurses, and even then that was a strict. I'm sure that they had people for like laundry and sewing because that's a woman's job.
And cooking and...
Yeah.
But even then, you have to go in with a blind eye. You don't see what's going on. You don't
Right.
talk about it because then you lose your job.
Yeah.
One of the
That
things
just
I
makes
was
me want to hurt people.
Yeah, one of the things I was thinking about through all that was what's crazy too is how even had they not went, how they'd be treated at home.
Oh yeah.
That's
They would have
just-
been
yeah.
like, there was one case we did where we talked to the spirit of the little boy who was mentally disabled and he was locked in an attic. Remember, he used to watch
They're
the kids
called
play.
disappointment
Yeah.
rooms.
Yeah, he used to watch the kids play through the window, and that's why you can see him in the window.
Yeah. Yeah. They're in that time frame they were called disappointment rooms, which is basically a small closet-sized room where they were fed meal. They had to go to the bathroom, where they slept. They were not ever allowed to be seen, and a lot of them had like maids or nurses, and those were the only time that they were ever seen or heard from.
Yep.
And they pretty much died in those rooms.
Yeah, the one little boy, there were scratch marks in the closet from where they would lock him in the closet if people were outside so that they couldn't see him in the window.
Yeah.
Get to investigate as much as we were supposed to, but we'll have some pictures and stuff uploaded on our YouTube video when this gets released on YouTube. But we did find a little bit about some of the ghosts that are there,
Yeah.
thanks to the internet. So, you want to do some of the ghost peoples?
Sure. There's a place at Pennhurst, Quakers Hall. There's a little girl that runs through the hallways there. A lot of people that investigate get EVPs from her saying don't touch me or how she's scared. And she tends to shove people a lot. She also slams doors, knocks on walls. And people also say that there's something not very human at the Quaker Hall.
No, I can contest to that. Because that is one of the ones that we went into, and I didn't nope it out of there, but that is definitely one section we went into that I was done.
Yeah.
Is that the basement one?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was especially that one room that looked like a giant shower room. The second I walked through that doorway, I was stuck because it felt like I had people just bum rushing me because they're like, "Oh, we're here." It was way too much at one time.
You gotta think, okay, so is it really an inhuman spirit, or is it just all these souls that are just so angry?
Yeah, just
But
all the energy.
when you have people with the mental illnesses, they can create entities on their own. So It would be fun to go figure out what it is. But
Yeah.
Limerick building, there's, again, a lot of EVPs and voices people get. Run, don't go into this room, stuff along those lines. People also noted a whole bunch of shadow figures that just vanish. And also another common thing that's pointed out is drops in temperature. That seems to come up a lot with nausea, headaches.
Another fairly
symptoms.
common thing,
Yeah.
especially when you're with negative spirits.
Yeah.
I don't think.
That's one of those few places that people tell you not to go there.
Yeah, that would be one of the first buildings I would run to, though.
I don't think we were allowed in that one.
I don't think so.
Oh, they don't have it up on their website anymore. I was going to bring it up.
No, they took everything down that had to do with that.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, not to get off topic, but it was so bad. They disabled their Facebook thing for a while.
Yeah.
There's another one at the Philadelphia building.
No, that's if you got the RIP pass. You
Yeah.
got the Philadelphia, Limerick, and Industrial building.
No, I'm glad we didn't get that because it certainly wasn't worth it.
No.
The Philadelphia building, they've seen a woman in white. She's believed to be a former nurse, which, I mean, that's their uniforms. That would make
Woman
sense.
in white.
Yeah.
Shadow figures, again, completely normal. That's to be expected. EMF detectors spike with no power sources nearby. I think that's pretty much true in all of the buildings because we had our K2 meters going off quite frequently. But people say that the spirits in the Philadelphia building are more curious than they are hostile,
That show.
but still deeply
No, we
unsettled.
can't
Well,
zoom
duh.
in.
Yeah. I mean,
I would be
everything
too.
they've been through, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. No, there's the scariest one of them all.
I doubt that.
This one, the entity's name is
No, it doesn't show the map.
the King. It tends to stay in the boiler room, and it's not very friendly. It's one of those that'll beat the crap out of you for no reason, just because it doesn't like you. It's believed to be the ghost of an old maintenance worker, but it's not sure.
I knew it! Oh, keep going.
Okay.
We'll talk about it in a minute. Keep going.
But yeah, so they believe it's an old maintenance worker from the 40s or 50s, but nobody's really sure, but that's the best guess we have for right now.
No, I'm sure somebody's sure. It's just a matter
yeah.
of
The King guards pretty much the whole boiler room. And anyone that it does not like, it'll tell you. It'll make sure it knows it doesn't like you. When he's around, you get a very strong scent of cigar smoke, cigarette smoke, all that. And the smell tends to come up when you enter the throne room, which is his spot of the boiler room. He's known to speak through spirit boxes a lot, and he'll send very cryptic messages to you. One of the most common ones is get out. And when he says get out,
We got a few
you
of those.
better get out.
Chills.
You better get out. Because if you don't get out, that's when most of the attacks come in. He's known to choke, scratch, hit, punch, all the above. He's known for all of that. And there's also another voice from the boiler room, and it's a female voice.
you gotta go back a little bit because this guy, spirit, whatever, can be so forceful that they actually swap out their security guards every 15 minutes so
Right,
they don't
yeah.
have to be down there with him for very long.
I'm not surprised. And the reason why I got so excited about this is because we didn't research any of this before we went. And that's the room that I got the most overwhelmed in. And I told the girls, I was like, it smells like somebody smoking. And then all of a sudden I got super dizzy. I got super lightheaded. And that's when all of my emotion was just gone. Like, I could not control myself. You guys had to walk me out.
What was that?
You guys were like, okay, we need to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what I had said. I was like, I keep seeing an old man.
Yeah, would be him.
And that's when you guys, after I had walked out, you guys had went and talked to that lady and was like, hey. And that's when she said that one area that we were in, most of the inmates or patients or whatnot would go like hide in there.
Yeah.
And that
That room off to the side was one of their working rooms.
Yeah.
But on the other side would have been his area.
that now, all reading that just makes a whole lot more sense now.
Yeah.
Because especially because we did get at least 3 EVPs and they all said get out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
And
it was
that-
in that area.
And I started feeling just worse and worse the longer that we stayed down there.
And the K2 meter was going absolutely crazy
Yeah.
as we were getting the get outs, and it was definitely an older, gruff male voice.
It was I think one of the first EVPs we had gotten was get out.
Yeah.
And we did our thing, but we left pretty quick after
Yeah.
that.
Okay, sorry. Didn't mean to
But
interrupt you.
well, that kind of goes in with what I was coming up with. He tends to not like women the most.
Not surprised.
Yeah, it's mostly women that he'll send the immediate get out to.
Yep. And that's pretty much what I felt like too, is that I was not supposed to be there. And I think it was because of how I was dressed too, because it was a really hot day, so I had a skirt on, because I was like, I'm not going to wear jeans and a hoodie because I'm going to sweat because it was like 90 degrees outside.
Yeah.
So it looked like I was almost wearing a dress because of my outfit.
Yeah.
And it seemed to be, I was the
You had
first
your hair
one.
done, you had makeup.
Yep.
But going with what Tegan said, a lot of people have heard a woman down there, like calling out for help or warning people to run, but then like he silences her, so they're trying to piece together, is she trapped down there because of him, or is she staying down there to try to get people away from him?
Yeah.
Are they in a constant battle?
And we've seen that before, that you have one spirit that's trying to take over and you have another one who's no, and keeping them at bay. Yeah, but that just, I have goosebumps because
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't know any of that before we investigated, because we don't really like to know a whole lot, and that corroborates everything that we have on video, that we have on EVP, and everything I felt that day.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's so exciting.
But yeah, going back to the EVPs and stuff, he has one famous line that most people that go in there get. He says, Benadryl all day. Benadryl, not Benadryl like the medicine. Just making sure that's clear.
DRILL.
Yeah. And that's left more questions than answers to everyone that gets it, because they don't know if he's saying that because of the people in there, or if that's something he would say when he was a maintenance guy there.
Yeah.
They don't know if that's something.
Like describing a day, it's been a drill all day, or
Yeah.
yeah.
And that also leads to people not sure if it is a human spirit down there, because of the attacks and the get out, and how crystal clear the EVPs come through with the same voice every time, and the tendencies he has, and especially with the way he sort of, the king rules the
Right.
basement.
Yeah.
So basically, from what the Google says, it just basically means that they've been repeating the same activity or task all day. It's just repetitive,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which most of these jobs that they probably did were repetitive, because for their mindset and whatnot, they had to do repetitive jobs.
Yeah.
So he was probably bored out of his mind, so he needed to torment people.
Yeah.
A lot of even if he was an employee there and not an inmate, even though that's not really what they called, that's what they were.
Yeah.
He was your average Joe who was a plumber or whatever you would call him for.
And for
That.
a building that size, it would be the same thing day
Yeah.
in and day out.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he would torment the people who were confined there all day long. So why wouldn't he continue it now?
And to him, it's no different than who was
Right.
down there. It's just a bunch of people
We're just a bunch of nosy people interrupting
Yeah.
his day.
Yeah.
in his area and where he would torment people. So it's really no different than how it was back then when he was alive.
I got one more.
Oh, okay.
So, in recent times, which we got to see, most of the buildings are covered in graffiti.
Yeah.
And they have suspected over the years satanic rituals.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the graffiti symbols and stuff that
Oh,
we
yeah.
saw, they were straight like witchcraft. There's
Oh, yeah.
no question about
Oh, yeah.
it. There's some dark things that happened in some of those areas.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not really gated off, but if you can get in there, you're stupid, just straight up.
Yeah.
Because some of these places, like even just to walk up and down the stairs was dangerous.
Yeah.
Because the stairs are steep, there really weren't places to hold on to, and it's damp, so the walls are wet.
The floorboards are all rotting.
Yeah.
No.
But for you to be able to get in there to do all of that,
The energy from the buildings
oh
alone
my God. And
to
it's,
go with whatever ritual or seance you're performing, you are just asking for a world of trouble.
oh yeah, but just to even get around some of the buildings, it's a hike.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was the most
You are
walking-
dedicated if you're doing that, I tell you.
Yeah, that was a hike and a half.
Yeah.
But no, for the chaos that had happened, we did have a good time. We did get to do our investigation. Not the way that we wanted to. We were really hoping for some more, but it is what it is.
Can't fix it because
No.
they're not willing
Yeah.
to fix it.
No. But I definitely recommend checking it out if you want to do a ghost tour and whatnot.
Again, not a ParaCon, go to a ghost tour.
Yes, do the ghost tour, do the histories. We did meet some of the people there that do them all year round. They're great people. They know what they're talking about. They didn't hire just some Joe Schmo off the street. So it was definitely something that I would
Yeah.
do again without the ParaCon. But yeah, I think
That's it.
that's it for us for
Yep.
Pennhurst. I guess stay tuned for the next one.